Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for keeping up with us on money psychology so far. Today, we're going to talk about why the middle class stays middle class, loss aversion explained. Here is something nobody wants to hear. The middle class doesn't stay middle class because of the economy. It doesn't stay middle class because of bad luck or corrupt politicians or a system rigged against them. It stays middle class because of a single psychological bias, one so deeply wired into the human brain that most people will never even notice it's controlling their decisions. It's called loss aversion. And once you understand it, you'll see it everywhere in every financial decision you've ever made, in the way you think about money, risk, and your own future. More importantly, you'll understand exactly why breaking out of the middle class is so much harder than anyone admits, and what it actually takes to do it. In the 1970s, two psychologists named Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky ran a series of experiments that would eventually win a Nobel Prize. They gave people a simple choice. Option A, you receive $50 guaranteed. Option B, you flip a coin. Heads, you get $100. Tails, you get nothing. Mathematically, both options are identical. The expected value is exactly the same. But almost everyone chose option A. Then they flipped it. Option A, you lose $50 guaranteed. Option B, flip a coin. Heads, you lose nothing. Tails, you lose $100. Again, mathematically identical. But this time, most people chose option B, the gamble, just to avoid the guaranteed loss. What Kahneman and Tversky discovered was this: losing something feels roughly twice as powerful as gaining the same thing. Losing $100 hurts about twice as much as gaining $100 feels good. The pain of loss is not equal to the pleasure of gain. It is far greater. This is loss aversion, and it is not a character flaw. It is evolutionary. For most of human history, losing resources, food, shelter, safety, meant death. The brain that treated losses as emergency survived. The brain that didn't. The problem is that in a modern financial world, that same ancient wiring is quietly sabotaging your wealth.
Here is where it gets personal. The middle class, almost by definition, has something to lose. They have a job, a salary, a mortgage, a modest savings account, a lifestyle built around a predictable income. And loss aversion means that the more you have to lose, the more terrified you become of losing it. So when an opportunity appears, starting a business, investing in stocks, buying a rental property, changing careers for higher upside, the middle-class brain doesn't ask, what could I gain? It asks, what could I lose? And because losing feels twice as bad as gaining feels good, the answer is almost always, don't risk it. Stay safe. Keep what you have. The wealthy think about this completely differently. Studies of high net worth individuals consistently show they evaluate opportunities by upside first. What's the best case? What's the potential gain? Risk is managed, not avoided. The middle class evaluates opportunities by downside first. What if it goes wrong? What if I lose? Risk is avoided, not managed. This is not about courage. It's about a fundamental difference in how the brain frames every financial decision. And the cruel irony is that the safer the middle class tries to play it, the more trapped they become. A salary feels safe, but it caps your income ceiling permanently. A savings account feels safe, but at 2% interest it loses value against inflation every year. Avoiding investment feels safe, but it guarantees you will never build the kind of wealth that creates real freedom. Safety, chosen by loss aversion, is its own kind of trap. It just moves slowly enough that most people never see it closing in. Loss aversion has a twin. It's called the status quo bias, and together they form one of the most powerful traps in human psychology. The status quo bias is the tendency to prefer the current state of things, even when change would clearly be better, because any change feels like a potential loss. And potential loss, as we now know, triggers fear twice as powerful as the equivalent potential gain. Think about how many people stay in a job they hate for years, not because they can't find something better, but because leaving feels like losing the security they already have. Think about how many people keep money sitting in a low-interest account for decades, not because they don't know about investments, but because moving it feels like risking what they've already got. Think about how many people have had the same financial habits for 20 years, not because those habits are working, but because changing them means admitting the current path isn't good enough. This is the invisible cage. It doesn't feel like a cage because you built it yourself from rational-sounding reasons. Now isn't the right time. The economy is uncertain. I'll start investing when I have more to invest. I'll take the risk when I have more security. But the security never feels sufficient, because loss aversion moves the goalposts. However much safety you accumulate, losing it always feels like it would hurt more than gaining more would help. The result? Paralysis, dressed up as prudence. So how do wealthy people escape this trap? Because they're human too. They have the same brain, the same evolutionary wiring. The difference is they've learned to reframe risk. Instead of asking, what do I lose if this goes wrong? They ask, what do I lose if I never try? That second question changes everything. Because suddenly inaction has a cost. Staying safe has a price. And the price of never investing, never building, never risking, paid out slowly over 30 years, is far greater than any single bad investment. There's a concept called the cost of inaction. Every year you don't invest $500 a month in an index fund earning 8% annually. That's not zero. That's $30,000 of future wealth you didn't build. Compounded over 20 years, that's over $290,000 gone. Not because you lost it, but because you never let it grow. Loss aversion makes you afraid of losing what you have, but it blinds you completely to what you're losing by standing still. The mindset shift is this: inaction is not safe. It just feels safe. Real safety, the kind that lasts, is built by taking calculated, consistent, educated risks over time. Not gambling. Not recklessness. Calculated risk. The kind that the wealthy have always understood, and the middle class has always feared. The middle class stays middle class not because the game is rigged, but because the brain, trying to protect what little it has, refuses to play the game at all. Understanding loss aversion won't make you fearless, but it will make you conscious. And consciousness is where change begins. The fact that you're here, learning this, already puts you ahead of most people who will spend their entire lives inside this trap without ever knowing its name. If this video made you think differently about money, subscribe. Every week we go deeper on the psychology and hidden mechanics of wealth. And the next video? It's about the exact mental habit that separates people who build wealth from people who just earn it. You don't want to miss it.